Go ahead and get everyone checked in. As I call your name, if you could unmute and let me know if the name on the screen is correct and who you're representing here today. So I'll start with Trey Sheldon. Trey is from our zoning department. Welcome, Trey.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Um, and we also have Josh Agricola. Is that right?
That's correct. I'm here.
Okay, welcome. And who you're representing here today?
Myself.
Okay. Are you the property owner? I'm sorry, I don't have the
Yeah,
thing
no
pulled
problem.
up
I'm
in
not
front
the
of me.
property owner, but I'm the one that's trying to purchase the property to build the proposed project.
Got it. Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
David, by way of reference, he's also the project architect. So he
Correct.
answered this question. He happens to be an architect by trade and is designing his own home here. Just for
Oh,
context.
got it.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks. Welcome. All right. And then we also have someone under the name Mel.
Yes, I'm working with Josh on the project.
Sure. And your last name?
It's Pistor, Pister.
Okay, great. Welcome. Are we expect anyone else to join us here on the applicant owner side?
My wife may join. She had a meeting at work and she was going to potentially pop in if she gets availability.
Okay. Is her name Perrin March?
I know it's Bridget Agricola.
Okay. Someone else is trying to join. I thought it was
Okay.
going to be perfect timing there as you were saying that, but
I think
it's
that's
someone else.
a neighbor, David.
Got it. All right. All right. Welcome, Mr. Marsh. Or is it March? If you could unmute for me.
It is March. Yes.
Okay, great. I was just getting everything started, doing some introductions here, getting everyone checked in. So I have you down. Is it Perrin?
That's right. Right.
Okay, Perrin
Yeah.
March. And are you a neighboring property owner? Is that right?
I'm just a neighbor across the street. That's right.
Got it. Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
We have the applicant and prospective property owner and architect here, Josh Agricola, and also a member of the applicant team, Mel Pister, and then Trey Sheldon from the Cincinnati Zoning Department. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city of Cincinnati, and I'm presiding over the hearing today. Let's go ahead and get started. Mr. Agricola, if your wife does attempt to join, I'll just bring her in wherever we're at in the hearing. As long
Okay,
as you're good to
appreciate that.
proceed without her.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Great. I need to read through our hearing script. This basically will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get into it. So this is the March 13th, 2024 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'll be presiding over the hearing. Case before us today is case number ZH20240013. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any potential opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer at this hearing, must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. So I'll allow Mr. Agricola and Mr. Pister. You all can orient that presentation however you want. One of you can speak, both of you can speak. However you want to set it up is fine with me. I'll then move to the public. If Mr. March has anything that he'd like to add or provide, or any questions or comments, I will then hear from him after the applicant had presented its case. I'll move to the city zoning department. I'll allow Mr. Sheldon to provide the testimony in addition to his staff report if he would like. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut or respond to those arguments in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly, but to the extent there is some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, The zoning code requires that I swear you in. If you're not certain yet, if you want to ask any questions or make any comments, I can always swear you in later. But if you're certain that you do want to say something during this hearing, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute now to collectively swear everyone in. I'll need you to raise your right hand and to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right. Who will be taking the lead here for us on the presentation from the applicant?
I'll take the lead on that, and then Mel, if you don't mind filling in if we have any questions, that'd be great.
Okay, floor is yours.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. So let's see. So the first thing, we're trying to build a new home at the proposed location. And to just go over kind of some of the high level points. Sorry, I'll try not to be too detailed, but I'm not sure how much detail to go into. But in designing this home, we gave meticulous attention to the placement of the home and making sure that it was going to coincide with some of the wishes and ideas behind the hillside district. So we tried to design a home that was as low slung as possible and low in height. We also made sure to try to design the home that's going to fit with this seamlessly with the architecture that's surrounding the proposed homes. Considering these restrictions that are set forth, we're looking at a few things to go through to get relief from. As I mentioned before, according to the building plans and the plot plan, the proposed structure is significantly below the allowed height for the majority of the structure, specifically the front street facing portion of the home. And it's lower than the maximum allowed in the rear of the structure as well. Even though it does slope down, it's still beneath, the maximums that are allowed in the hillside district. We are seeking relief from the averaging requirements set forth by the hillside district. Based on the averaging requirements for the sides and the rear, it's approximately 7.2 feet to the west, 12.6 feet to the east, and 7 feet in the rear. Due to the site constraints, our approach, we also try to use the existing driveway to minimize cut and fill, as well as restrictions of having habitable space beneath the garage. So it's important for us to actually place the garage towards the front of the home, which kind of makes the home a little bit longer than we would otherwise would like, should we not have those restrictions. It's also important to note and highlight that our proposed design remains compliant with the standard SF10 requirements inside the zoning department. Prior to this submission of requested relief, we met with many of the neighbors and to discuss and show them the plans and what we were trying to do, specifically the neighbors on both sides of the home. Also, there were about 8 or 9 other neighbors that we spoke with in proposing this, and in meeting with them. And there's a document where I actually had them sign, just saying that they don't object, to what we're looking for. I wanted to make sure that the neighbor, future neighbors of my wife and I and our 4 children, we want to make sure that it was not something they were going to be upset about. So we wanted to make sure to be proactive and meet with them and show them what we're going to and give us any insight they potentially have. Overwhelmingly, there was support for the project. The home that's currently there has been fairly dilapidated. It's been vacant for a number of years. So I think a lot of the neighbors are just wanting to see something new built there. Also like the design of the home, that it fit in with the surrounding structure. Didn't feel like it was imposing in its design or anything as well. Part of the submission to request relief, we also performed an analysis of the proposed structure and the existing 22 homes nearest to this. From that calculation, the average square foot of total volume is 3,676.2 square feet. And you'll notice that our proposed home is only 2% larger than the average. So we're well beneath the largest home sizes of gross mass. It's also worth noting the current dwelling on the site encroaches further into the setback requirements and the relief that we are requesting. Our proposal not only addresses these setbacks, but also aligns with the environmental and stabilization stewardship principles outlined in the hillside district. Therefore, we are respectfully seeking approval for the relief required to execute this thoughtful and comprehensive approach to ensure preservation of the hillside and building a home that would seamlessly integrate with the natural environment and the surrounding homes. Point 2B, so height versus width. The proposed plan is not on top of the hillside, and it's designed to be located below the brow per the hillside district preferences. The home is more staggered to fit within the guidelines within this section as well. The stepping, the proposed plan is below the brow of the hill and the design is staggered low slung design with a low pitched roof line and step foundation in depth and width, which tucks the design into the hillside. This purposeful design, we feel, accentuates the sense of harmony to the similarly sloped grade on the property. D, which would be the maximum retaining wall height. There's nothing we need as far as relief for the retaining wall. The retaining wall is going to be beneath the 8 feet maximum, and it's approximately going to be 7.5 feet tall at its highest point, although the average is closer to about 4 feet. But it goes in with the hillside. So there's no relief we're seeking there. Rooftop utilities. We don't plan on having any rooftop utilities on this project. Landscaping and pervasive services. So upon completion of construction, all pervious surfaces will be landscaped or seed and sod to promote hillside stability. Our top priority will be to approach a landscaping design to utilize ground cover to promote the stabilization of the hillside and slope. Excavation of fills. So as detailed in our plot plan, the cut and fill plan, there is a cumulative excavation and fill of approximately 28 feet. That's from the top of the retaining wall that we're going to rebuild all the way to the back of the property where we'll do some regrading. Approximately 28 feet. As I noted out. Also, it's worth noting there are some cuts that need to be made, but they are less than 7 feet in order to reach sustainable soils for the foundation support, as indicated in the geotechnical survey. In the survey, we just need to go a little bit deeper to be able to get some real stable support. Again, stability of the house. And I think the house that's actually currently built there, part of the reason why it's failing is because it wasn't built on stable soils. So again, the structure that we're going to and taking part with the geotech and the engineers is going to make sure that it's on stable ground so it doesn't have any issues in the future. Hillside stability, the recommendation of the geotech report, including the rebuild of the existing retaining wall and future installation of the landscape, address relative hillside stability. And then as far as the hillside development standards, as far as avoiding cuts, so no cuts will be made to the hillside that will leave a cliff-like vertical slope. All grading as detailed in the plot plan will avoid any vertical slopes, and the retaining wall that is going to be replaced will be less than 7.5 feet at its highest point and slope quickly down to grade. B, we've got the design is a low slung design with a low pitch roof line, step foundation in depth and width. Most of the roofing mass is well below the limits of the maximum building envelope. The roof is incrementally stepped into the hillside to reach stable soil as required per the geotech report. This approach accentuates a sense of harmony to the similarly sloping grade on the property, nicely tucking into the hillside. Point C is the home utilizes the existing driveway on the high side of the property to minimize cut and excavation for driveway and parking. This design allows for a front walk from the driveway so that any visitors can park in an existing parking space within the community without the need to create more parking. The proposed excavation is minimally necessary for a lower level to the north side while meeting the depth requirements recommended in the geotech report. Its step foundation allows for minimum disturbance to the hillside. D, no trees will be removed from the hillside for this home. Expectations are also to have at least 8 to 10 trees planted once construction is complete to maintain that hillside stability and actually make it better.
Did you say no trees will be removed?
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks.
And then E, the proposed home is to be located well beneath the brow of the hill. There will be, from the public viewing areas, there's not going to be any interruption of view, even the street. Again, having the hill set well beneath the brow line. And the home's design and placement was thoughtfully designed below the brow to reduce the height to respect any views of the neighbors and public viewing areas. Also point G, the proposed dwelling has a relatively low profile and the foundation is stepped into the hillside to rest on stable soils per the recommendations of the geotech report. Essentially, in closing, we feel the proposed project is consistent with the major points contained within the Cincinnati Hillside Development District and supports the live section of Plan Cincinnati. Specifically, the action step, improve quality and number of moderate to high income rental and homeowner units. The existing dwelling on this site exhibits unsightly deterioration and is in a state of disrepair due to the poor upkeep and various structural issues. The surrounding neighbors that we've with have overwhelmingly supported the design and relief being respectfully requested. And I think that's most of my notes covered there, I believe. Is there anything else you'd like me to cover?
That was pretty thorough.
Okay, great.
One question, which I appreciate. The one question I did have was about, you mentioned some backyard grading. Could you talk more about that? What exactly you're doing? Are you trying to create a flat surface in the backyard?
No, not necessarily. It's right now it undulates, if you will, from left to right. And we're just trying to kind of even it out so it doesn't have quite that undulation that's currently there.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions at this time. Mr. Pfister, did you want to add anything before we move on to the public?
No, I think Josh covered it. And yeah, the grading in the rear of the home, we try to minimize as much as possible, just to slighten it out and get sort of a semi-usable area.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Mr. March, if there's anything you wanted to add, now would be the time.
No, I actually just, I wasn't at home. I think Mr. Agricola might have stopped by my house, and I wasn't at home. So I just joined the meeting just to kind of get a better idea of what was being built. I really don't have any concerns. He's on the opposite side of the street. So the only thing I'll add is welcome to the neighborhood.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Great.
And
Thanks, Mr. March.
I'm sorry, David, with that, I might excuse myself.
Sure.
If you have more formalities, but I think that's all I need.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's you're welcome to leave anytime. I appreciate you being here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. March. Good to meet you.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to Trey Sheldon from the zoning department. Trey.
All right, David, Josh, Mel. Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind here, that I've worked with Mr. Agricola on, got to know each other here, worked with him on the project here. He met with me a couple of times to make sure he understood the hillside rules, and try to match this as best he could, this project to it. I will note that he grew up in the mountains in Utah and kind of wanted someplace in Cincinnati to have mature trees and so on, and wanted to have that kind of feeling that a home that he was designing as an architect would fit into the woodland environment. And he and his wife really wanted to purchase this property. The back of it, there's some to the rear. There's some larger pieces of property there that have extensive woods behind them. So he essentially has that as a big, not only buffers this for them, but he gets to, view a forest essentially in his backyard. So I also wanted to point out the other thing that he and I kind of discussed as he was designing this is that if you look both at the aerial images and cages and also at the current topographic map, topography layer and cages, you'll see that most of this that he's building on was impacted already. I mean, he's really changing it very little above the top of the retaining wall. If anything, there's going to be landscaping added up there. And then down below, as you questioned, I mean, he is doing some kind of feathering out, back dragging a little bit there. But part of that is simply, if you look at the aerial image, you'll see that there was a swimming pool built behind the existing home that was dug into the hillside partially, and then part of a deck that had structures underneath it, like foundations and so on, all of which is obviously going to have to be removed here and so on. But if you look at the topography map, you can see this is not a virgin landscape here where they're doing it. It's already been dug out, and so I would just opine that he's actually excavating far less than the number that he's requesting makes it seem, and that's sometimes the case. But this is one of the most obvious cases of that. Even with respect to the retaining wall, they're putting the driveway in essentially the same location, and they're just replacing and extending, kind of wrapping further to the left. If you were standing in front of the property, they're extending the wall, kind of tapering it down to make sure that no erosion comes down onto the driveway area. But as he stated, the exposed part of it's at a max at 7.5 feet, and then tapers down to 3 or 4 feet. and it's in basically the same contour line as the existing wall. So really all this is almost rebuilding on the same impacted soils that were already there. As he mentioned, they're not even planning to need to cut down any mature trees at all. So, and it does a great job of stepping into the hillside. I mentioned in my drawing that he showed each side of the elevations. And actually, since we do the average at the front of the house, it would probably split the difference between these two, David, as far as if you were looking at the two side elevations. Like figure 7, it's actually would be a little bit, the envelope would be a little bit higher than that, maybe 2 feet higher, and maybe a little bit lower on the other side. But on the left or west elevation, that's figure 6 in my drawing, the left elevation, you can see that building envelope is well above even the highest point of the roof at the back. So and he's really worked at the massing here to do what's a pretty cool modern but very natural looking house. It comes across as something you would see out west. So anyhow, and as he pointed out, that left or west elevation does a good job of showing how there's one maximum cut there that's right underneath where the garage is. The garage to be where the driveway is makes total sense for it to need to be there. It did make the house a little deeper than he would have otherwise planned it. But you'll note that there's no basement or anything under the garage. It's just got piers under it. So that it minimizes excavation and steps into it until by the time you get to their basement part, they're really just building over the top of the foundation of the old house. So where it's, the existing house where it's removed. So altogether, I think it's very much, in keeping with that neighborhood. He did, per our discussions, he did take an olive branch around and meet the neighbors, and he did a really good job of showing what the total footprint of surrounding dwellings is. The last thing I would note is that this is a pretty small lot compared to the other lots in the neighborhood, and it's kind of on a angled parallelogram, if that makes sense. If you look at it on there, he really to fit a house that's kind of square to the road, he almost had to end up having some relief here. There would have been no other way to do it. Most of the other homes in the neighborhood, I noted the adjacent ones have both more width and to put the footprint of a home, and certainly homes like Mr. Perrin's across the street or in other parts of it, sometimes the lots are 2 or 3 times the size of this. So he's really just trying to fit a home in here as best he can into the circumstances. So I think that's about all I have, unless you have any further questions.
No, I don't think that I do. Appreciate your testimony and your work on the staff report, Chair.
Welcome, David.
Okay. Turning back to Mr. Agricola, anything you wanted to say in response to Trey's comments, or anything else in closing or otherwise before we adjourn today?
I don't think so. Just one thing on the retaining wall too. And again, in an effort to further stabilize the hillside, knowing that's a factor here. The retaining wall that we're going to be replacing it with is a soldier and pile retaining wall. Currently it's a stone retaining wall. This is per the geotech's recommendations, but it's going to substantially stabilize that area much more than what it is currently now. So again, it just point out one of our other efforts. We consider the concerns of the hillside district, but we feel like we're doing everything and then some to make sure to minimize any of those potential issues that could be down the road. And I think it's best for the lot and the neighborhood, to do some of those stabilization techniques that we're going after.
Okay, great. Well, let's leave it at that. I've had a chance to review the application materials and the staff report, and based on that and based on the testimony and that I've heard here today, I agree with both the applicant and with Mr. Sheldon that it would be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code of this project. And so based on that, I am going to approve the application. I appreciate the effort that you have put into the hillside stabilization and reading through the hillside standards and trying to design a home that's sympathetic to that. So again, I am going to approve this. I need to formalize that approval in a written decision. Mentioned at the beginning that typically it takes about 2 weeks. I'll do everything I can to get it out to you as soon as possible. As soon as I do finish the decision, I put in a PDF and email it to everybody in the hearing here today. So you'll have a copy of it really just moments after it's complete. once you and Trey have that, he'll be able to approve the permitting on his end, and hopefully you can move forward. Any questions about any of that or anything else?
No, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate your considerations, Mr. Sturkey. So we're excited to get started, and I think it's going to be a fantastic project for our family, and then also for the city of Cincinnati as a whole. So I think it'll be great. And also, I greatly appreciate Mr. Sheldon worked with me through kind of the process. I educated myself in the Hillside districts. He was excellent to work with and always available to meet with me if I had any questions. So thank you very much, Trey.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that feedback. Okay, well, if you do have any questions in the meantime or would like a status update on the decision, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm sure Mr. Sheldon would be happy to continue to answer questions as well. Other than that, good luck with the project. Hope everything goes well, and